Today's objective is I can solve absolute value equations. What is absolute value? Absolute value is the distance of a number from zero. When you take the absolute value of a number, you always end up with a positive number or zero. Whether the input was positive, negative, or zero, the output will always be positive. An absolute value equation will never have a negative solution. For example, the absolute value of 3 is 3, and the absolute value of negative 3 is also 3. The steps for solving an absolute value equation are: 1. Isolate the equation. 2. Write two equations, one with a positive solution and one with a negative solution. And 3. Solve for the variable in each equation. Step 4 is to test both solutions.
The first example is the absolute value of x plus 2 is equal to 7. First, you divide the equation into two separate equations, one with a positive and one with a negative. Then, you go ahead and isolate the variable. And solve for x on each side. Once you find the solution to each equation, plug the solution back into the original absolute value equation. The absolute value of 7, which is 7, is equal to 7. So the first x value is true. And the absolute value of negative 7 equals 7. That's equal to 7. So both of the x values are true. Since both solutions are true, you'd write your answer like this.
Example 2 is the absolute value of x minus 5 equals negative 4. Since absolute value equations can't equal a negative number, this would be empty set or no solution.
Another example is the absolute value of 2x plus 6 is equal to 10. First, you'd separate the equation into two, one with a positive solution and the other with a negative. First, you have to isolate the variable, so you'll subtract 6 from each side. And x is equal to 2. On the second one, subtract 6 from each side to isolate the variable, and you get 2x is equal to negative 16. You just divide each side by 2 and get x is equal to negative 8. Now you'll plug both of the x values back into the solution to see if it's true. The absolute value of 10 is equal to 10, so the first x value is true. The absolute value of negative 10 is equal to 10, so the second x value is true too. You would write your answer like this. The second example is the absolute value of 3x subtract 6 is equal to 18. You would go ahead and separate the absolute value equation into two separate equations, one with a positive solution and the other with a negative. Then you'll solve for the variable 3x. You get x equals 8 for the first equation. x equals -4 for the second one. Then you plug both of those back in. And the first value of x is true. And so is the second value of x. So you write your answer like this. Action.
Today's objective is I can solve absolute value equations. What is absolute value? Absolute value is the distance from Today's objective is I can solve absolute value equations. What is absolute value? Absolute value is the distance of a number from zero. When you take the absolute value of a number, you always end up with a positive number or zero. Whenever
Never a negative number. The first example is absolute value of x plus 2 is equal to 7. The first step, I messed up.
For example 2, the equation is the absolute value of x minus 5 equals -4.